1. Get ready for an epic tale of entitlement, perseverance, and an unforgettable dose of karma. Buckle up, because this story is about to take you on a wild roller coaster filled with suspense, disbelief, and ultimately satisfaction. Settle in, grab some popcorn, and prepare to be entertained. It all began on a gloomy afternoon, as raindrops cascaded from a darkened sky, saturating the world around me. Determined to complete my grocery shopping, I ventured out to a local store after a grueling day at work. Little did I know this seemingly mundane trip would transform into an encounter that would captivate the Reddit community. As I arrived at the grocery store, my spirits soared when I spotted a golden opportunity, a vacant parking spot conveniently located near the entrance. Now let me paint the picture for you. Rain pouring down in torrents, the store bustling with people seeking refuge, and parking spaces vanishing faster than a Reddit post on the front page. Just as I was about to claim my parking victory, fate had something else in store. Enter our entitled protagonist, a Karen clone with a haircut that defied logic and a glare that would bore holes through steel. She, let's call her EM, was accompanied by her equally entitled child, EK, an energetic ball of entitlement ready to explode at any moment. With a sense of entitlement exuding from every pore, EM spotted my coveted parking spot, her eyes lit up with a mixture of greed and determination as she locked onto her prey. Ignoring the laws of common decency and parking etiquette, she marched towards me with unwavering conviction. "Excuse me, young lady, you need to move your car, I need this spot." Taken aback by her audacity and entitlement, I mustered all the politeness I could summon and prepared to respond. "I'm sorry, but I arrived here first and was fortunate enough to find an available spot. There are other parking spaces just a few rows down. I'm sure you'll be able to find one." Little did I know my reasonable and polite response would be met with the force of entitlement I was about to witness. EM's face contorted with disbelief and fury. Her eyebrows furrowed like thunder clouds ready to unleash a storm. "How dare you? I'm a mother with a child, and we need this spot more than you do. Move your car immediately." As her words hung in the air, I felt a surge of frustration, mingled with the desire to stand my ground. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that engaging in a shouting match wouldn't solve anything. Little did I know the universe had its own plans for EM and her entitled demands. A plan fueled by the forces of instant karma. While EM continued her tirade, my attention was momentarily diverted by a peculiar sound, a distant yet unmistakable splashing of water. As my eyes scanned the surroundings, I spotted a delivery truck hurtling down the rain-soaked road. Time seemed to slow as the truck neared, its tires gliding through the puddles, building up an impressive wave of dirty rainwater. Just as EM reached the peak of her entitlement, the truck roared past, unleashing its aquatic payload. A deluge of water akin to a miniature tsunami crashed upon EM and EK, drenching them from head to toe. The rainwater seemed to have a malicious intent, seeking justice for those who dared to challenge the laws of decency. A symphony of gasps filled the air as bystanders witnessed the downfall. 2. If it wasn't obvious by now, I work in pest control, one of the best jobs I've ever had. One early day last summer, I had to go to a town 1 hour away to kill a wasp nest. As per protocol, I called the customer, Karen, 30 minutes before arrival to ensure they're home and have time to put on some clothes and whatnot. My call goes, after a while, to voicemail where I inform her that I will be there in 30 minutes. I keep driving, and as per protocol, I try to phone her again. I'm 15, 10, and 5 minutes away. For my company to legitimize a no-show on the customer's part, you have to go and knock on the door, even though 9 out of 10 times no one is home if they don't answer their phones. But when I got there and knocked, I was greeted by Karen. Now, in my past stories about a Karen, I explained that she had the obvious Karen look and even the same hairstyle. but this time I was greeted by a really large woman who resembled more of Honey Boo Boo's mom.
Who are you and what do you want?
She almost shouted, even though we stood barely 2 meters apart. I'm from pest control. I have a report about a wasp problem on your back porch, I say, trying not to gag from the odors seeping out from Karen's house.
Why didn't you call beforehand? That was awfully rude,
she exclaims, showing her green and brown teeth. I did. See here, I say and show her the phone.
Impossible. I didn't hear my phone ring. Well, since you're here now, go on with it.
I nod as she closes the door, quite thankful in not having to go through the house. I gear up with my suit, spray and puffer full of Ficam, a poisonous type of flower that also dries out your body, and head for the back. Backside of the house is even more dirtier than the front side, with huge piles of broken old toys spread around the yard, but after a bit of professional-looking parkour and maneuvering, I get to the porch. Right on the pillar is a huge nest. I just spray it down and then insert the tip of my puffer and spray in some Ficam. Textbook. I maneuver myself back to the front of the house and ring the bell again. This time I don't have time to take a step back. Karen was probably watching me through every single window, which punched backwards when she violently threw up the door. I'm all done now. Here's a receipt for all the chemicals I used in case any of your children or yourself should get sick. Also, please take note that it'll take 1 to 2 days before they're all dead, since it's a slow-acting poison, I inform. She exclaims as she takes the receipt and shuts the door. Weird, I thought, but I was used to meeting antisocial people, so I just shrugged and went on my way. This was 9:45. 7:30 p.m., almost 10 hours after I was at her place, and 3 hours after I got off work, my phone rings. Since I don't usually save my customers' numbers, I thought that maybe it was someone ringing because of something I tried to sell them earlier. So to not let my commission slip away, I answer the phone. Hello, and welcome to X Pest Control. My name is OP. How can I help you?
You're incompetent. I'll sue you for almost killing my son.
A loud voice said, but I did manage to match it to Karen's voice. What's happened? Is he all right? I asked, knowing that if he ingested the poison, he would get really sick and could die if he didn't go to an emergency room.
You said, oh, the wasps are gone. They weren't,
she snarked. What? I say, confused and a bit pissed. I told you that the poison takes 1 to 2 days before everything is dead.
No, you didn't. So I sent my 9-year-old son to remove the nest. He got stung 14 times because of you,
she shouted, almost deafening me. Look, ma'am, I informed you to leave it alone for 2 days, and even if I forgot, it says the exact same thing on the receipt that I handed you.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Go have a look.
I'm holding it now, and I took...
It goes quiet. Then just a beep to indicate that the phone call is disconnected. We didn't hear any more from her, and I never got a summons for court either. Shame. 3. Hello all. I'm really just venting and looking for some advice, but here it goes. My partner, 25-year-old male, John, is getting kicked out because he hasn't had a stable job in a year. He's been really struggling with depression, and his migraines are starting back up. I understand that his parents want him to get a job and just have some money, but he cannot find a job right now. He's been applying to places, but he's been getting turned down. He's pretty particular on what he wants to do and not do, but whenever I go see him, he does go on Indeed.com and apply at places. But it's like no matter what he does, it will never please his parents. Especially his mother. She is the most toxic person I've ever met. She belittles him and his opinions. She yells at him constantly over nothing. She badmouths him to his other family, and she expects him to clean her whole house while she literally stays at home and just smokes cigarettes and watches movies. Her house has been a mess ever since he was young, and she gets onto him about the mess that he leaves. I literally see her take a bite of something and just leave it there. I see her throw her cig butts on the ground or wherever. I have never seen her actually wipe down her counter or clean it. She gets onto him about cleaning when, quite frankly, he does clean the dishes. He helps her clean up the backyard even though it's not his mess. And he cleans his own bathroom. She would constantly barge into his room demanding him to do shit for her, and gets mad when he doesn't. And it got worse whenever his brother came back to town and started things with him. His brother is exactly like their mom. He would embarrass my partner in front of people and would mock him, tell him that he hasn't gone through hard things so he shouldn't be depressed. He would make fun of how my partner walks or dresses. He threatened my partner that if he didn't drink, he would beat his ass, and he was very serious about it. And when my partner chooses to talk to me on the phone rather than him, he would literally throw a tantrum and start beating himself. There is many things that happened, but ever since my partner started ignoring his brother and his brother moved back home, they've been yelling and belittling him every chance he gets, and his brother is trying his hardest to have their parents kick him out. It's really a big slap in the face when my partner and his brother were beefing. She took my partner's side because his brother went too far with what he was saying. But because his brother came back and is basically kissing her ass, she decided to treat my partner as if he is the worst one when his brother has many felonies and a DUI and crashes all the cars that he drove within 2 months of getting them. Whenever he would set boundaries with his brother, which his brother would keep overstepping, so he would choose to ignore him, she would tell him to grow up and that she would shit on him in the process. But it's like, why are you okay with your older son constantly trying to humiliate your younger son? Why is it okay for your older son to basically disrespect every female in his life and get no repercussion? In my opinion, she should have been happy that he finally put his foot down, that he is sticking up for himself, but she would crap on him and basically treat him as if he cannot have boundaries. Like my partner literally didn't move out with me at one point because his mom was about to get eye surgery and he was there from the beginning and taking care of her. He tries his best to stay low and avoid, but they just keep coming up and attacking him. To me, at least, it doesn't seem reasonable to kick him out after he got denied a job. I think it's not right to kick your child out when they have nothing. And I get that he should have been looking out for and he should have had a job, but he did try, and he's been getting denied, and he literally worked for his grandmother at her ranch for 3 months. He just came back a month ago. My partner has been diagnosed with severe depression, insomnia, chronic fatigue, and constant migraines. And it's like everyone knows it, but they treat it as if he stays up all night playing games when homie literally cannot sleep at night. He was prescribed medication, but he can't afford it anymore. And his mother refuses to at least pay one visit that would cost her $40. I'm just very frustrated because they're kicking him out at the end of the month. And I want to help him, but my family is very strict and would not allow it. I just really want to go off, but it's like I don't know if it's my place, and I don't want to make it worse. But there's so many other things happening and it's just a long list. We live in Texas, and I myself just landed a desk job. But I also live with my parents, helping them out as much as I can. I just honestly don't know what to do. My parents are strict, and it just sucks seeing him in this state, and I can't do anything about it. 4. For some background, my dad bought a small house, 2-bed, 1-bath, near a beach for my grandaunt, and the house had always been in our family. It's on a small patch of land with some yard to the sides of it, with an old metal shed with some glass windows towards the back. Everyone in our family uses it, and we rent it out when no one's there. We went down this weekend because it was going to be fun and we needed to get ready for renters. It's close to the community park and pool, so it's always a little loud and sometimes busy. Behind us is another small house with barely any yard. My parents went out to get some hardware while I stayed home to work on some schoolwork. They can take a long while because traffic is absolutely terrible most of the time. Kids tend to play on our lawn but don't get really loud, so we don't mind. I heard a loud bang on something metal, but I didn't see anything from the window, so I went back to work. Again, I heard it around 5 to 7 minutes later. I went outside this time because I didn't know what it was. Apparently, there were 2 boys about 10 or 12 years old playing kickball in our yard. They seemed surprised when I stepped outside the house. I asked them what they were playing and they said kickball. I asked if they could avoid hitting the shed in the house. They agreed and went back to the house behind ours when I left. 15 minutes go by and I hear it again, but I assumed it was a mistake because kids can't really control their kicks sometimes. I hear it again 4 times in the next 10 minutes. I went back outside and found the kids on my family's land again, but with the parents. The boys didn't change and were still kicking the house and shed. When they saw me, they stopped playing. I asked the parents and the kids this time to help the kids avoid hitting the house. They seemed to be annoyed by me and told me they are watching them and that I should mind my own business in a pretty snarky way. I was pretty surprised because an adult never talked to me like that. I said I wouldn't mind if they would just stop hitting the house and shed. They said I was being an ungrateful kid on vacation. I responded saying that the yard they were on was owned by my family and so is the house they are hitting, so I don't want it to get damaged. They couldn't care less and pretty much said, well, they're kids and they don't know better. I suggested they could play in the park, 5 to 10 minutes away, so they wouldn't hit anything and they'd have more room to play. They seemed offended and said they weren't paying for that stuff and I was putting their kids in danger. I said it was open to the public free of charge and it was right next to a police station. They seemed to ignore that and said if I don't get away from them and their children they would call the police for harassment and putting kids at risk. I'm annoyed at this point and I reminded them that they are on my dad's property and that they could have damaged the property. They seemed angry that I said that and went quiet for a bit. The kids seemed somewhat embarrassed and the oldest seemed mortified and asked if they could just go to the park. The mom said, "You're right, we shouldn't waste any more time on this ungrateful brat." They left promptly with the husband and younger kid in tow. I was shocked and stood there for a bit and soon went back inside. Definitely a new experience and one I don't want again, but will probably encounter again in life. 5. I'm a 29-year-old male and I work at a school for kids with learning disabilities, mental and emotional issues, and various other issues that prevent them from succeeding in traditional education. The family that this story focused on had one child, Jimmy, 16-year-old male, enrolled at our school about 4 years ago. I had Jimmy in class for middle school science, and he had a variety of issues, some of which are documented like dysgraphia and ADHD. Now, as someone who has ADHD and specializes with working with kids to overcome these obstacles, our classes are one-on-one, so we have a deeper connection. I begin to pick up on when Jimmy is actually struggling and when he was just relying on his diagnosis to get himself off the hook. Anytime that Jimmy had an issue at school, his favorite solution was to call his mother, who would phone the school to yell at our administrators for how we had upset her son. This was an obvious red flag for me, but I trusted my school administrators to protect me from this insane mom. This particular story happened during a lunch period on Tuesday, the day that I run Dungeons & Dragons Club. Jimmy was always an avid member of D&D Club, despite never fully understanding the spirit of the club. He has what is sometimes known as main character syndrome. He just wants to be the best with no effort. Do nothing to earn strength but show off anyway. This kid wants the cheat codes for life. Jimmy is always frustrating to play with, wanting to be stronger than everyone else, and needing the story to focus on him to even remotely keep his attention. But on this day I hit my limit. Jimmy's father was on campus this day for some reason. Our school atmosphere is far different than a normal high school, so I just sort of accepted his presence when Jimmy brought him to D&D Club. I felt a bit awkward doing voices in front of my students' parents, but I kicked off the D&D session speaking as various Egyptian gods. I'm a huge nerd, and I like basing things on mythology. What really finally broke my endlessly patient nature was just a minor spill. At this point in time, I allowed students to eat while we played, as our club took place during their lunch period. But this policy was quickly amended after this event. Jimmy's father sat in the corner of my office and classroom. For me, it's the same thing. All my classes are one-on-one. As my group of adventurers gathered for the next exciting session of their adventure. I won't go into all the maddening antics Jimmy got into in this club, but during this particular session, before anything truly epic could take place, Jimmy spilled juice all over the table we were playing on. I paused to let Jimmy grab some paper towels to clean up the mess, but instead he seemed confused that the game had been paused. I asked him, "Are you going to clean up this mess first?" To which he responded, "You clean it up." I shit you not, his dad was in the fucking room and said nothing. I realized I had to be dad all of a sudden and said, "Jimmy, you are going to go get some paper towels and clean this up, or D&D is done for good." He immediately got up and started cleaning, and also apologized to me. As much as this child drove me crazy, it was a reminder to me that the nightmare kids come from nightmare parents. Jimmy was the most entitled kid I think I ever encountered, and he left our school due to his mother's issues. But I could only feel bad for him, knowing he would continue to be raised by a mom who would excuse his every flaw and do everything for him. And a father who was basically an unused shovel leaning against the wall. There is something so crazy to me about watching your kid rudely telling their teacher to clean up after them and not reacting. I had to rant. Poor kid. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to The Impractical Proudness of Parents, Ipop, episode 109. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do pop a like if you'd be so good, and share the video with friends and family. I'd appreciate that also. The more eyes watching, the more videos I can make. Okay, let's see. I think we have a little birthday shout-out to give today, so let's see, who's that for? And today's birthday shout-out goes to Kieran. Well, their birthday was yesterday, but, well, we'll do it today. That's fine. Hope you had a great birthday, Kieran, and as is the rule, you get to celebrate for a whole month. Make sure you're pampering yourself and taking care of yourself, no matter what else is going on. We all deserve some downtime, especially on our birthdays. And before I go, I'd like to sing Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kieran. Happy birthday to you. Alright, and before we go, let's have Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, what normal everyday task or tasks become unusual if you do them at the same time? For example, pooping and brushing your teeth. It might save you time, but it just feels weird. Let me know what your answers are in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.